Okay, well, welcome to session 6, addressing customers' wants and needs. And our goal is to take you through the material, except because we had the Halloween break, the Thanksgiving break. I wanted to spend a couple minutes actually talking about session 5, because you guys listened to the pre-recorded work and then you had to answer some questions, and I was in there looking at your discussions and they were pretty good, but I wanted to give you an opportunity to ask any questions. Did you have any other thoughts that you wanted to share about session 5? And that was the verbal and written, just as a refresher. Any thoughts?
Yeah.
Carly?
That was great.
So was it okay to do a pre-recorded message for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, it was less interactive, but I still think you got the message across and it was engaging. It wasn't like terribly boring or anything. So it's good.
And it was only an hour.
There you go. Yeah.
So I saw some feedback about the exclamation point. I think it was Melissa that asked, I don't know if you guys were in there seeing the discussion, but her comments about the exclamation point.
Yeah.
I didn't want to share that, again, perception is reality, as we all know, as we're going through this etiquette class. But the perception is that if you use too many exclamation points in particular, it does look like you're either insecure or unsteady in your thoughts. And so therefore, a better way to approach that is, like I said in the chat, is use Grammarly or kind of rethink your thoughts so that you don't have to put something on the end to make it, punctuate what you're trying to say.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Hi, PJ, welcome. I think he's still getting.
Hello.
Before we get into our session, I'm going to throw the same question to you that I asked Jacqueline and Carly, and that is, with the pre-recorded session, are there any questions that you might have or any comments that you want to share before we move into session 6?
No, I might have an issue or two I can email you about later, but no questions so far.
Okay, yeah, please email me and we'll make sure we address it. All right, so let's get started. As you can see, we are down to addressing customer needs, and then our capstone completion course is December 8th, which will be here before you know it. So again, for this particular topic, we're going to talk about how to correctly identify who your internal and external customers are. And then we're going to talk about how do you add your personal value and how do you increase your personal value with your customers. And then the third thing is we're going to help you create a plan to identify a business problem, the steps that you need to take to do it. And then again, Marion and I are really passionate about the mission and vision statements of organizations. And if it's a volunteer organization or if it's a work organization, or sometimes even families have mission statements, how do you connect mission and vision to the context? And we'll talk about what context is in a minute. So that is what we're going to do by 7 o'clock. All right, same slide we've had for 5, now 6 weeks is make sure your cameras are on. Please participate. It is so much more fun for everyone. And learning really is enhanced when we all get a chance to be together. Cell phones are off, and Marion always goes, oh my gosh, I haven't turned mine off. So Marion, turn yours off. And then, obviously the best way you can get some privacy would be great. Our plan for today, like the same for all the other weeks, is we want you to participate, have some fun with this. You all have world experiences, so please jump in on what you've done or things that you've either had as a faux pas or of a benefit in this topic. We're going to ask you to practice it. And then the last one is find some nugget in here that you can apply to your life. And that was the whole vision of our whole course, is there's got to be something in here that you could take with you after our time together is done. All right. And my computer's not going forward. Oh, see what happens when I move fast. Okay, so let's get started. We're going to talk about identifying your customer, and this is going to be identify your customer. We're going to talk about your business problem, figuring out what the pitch is going to look like, and then pulling it all together, which will lead us to our capstone next week. So this is your first and only assessment, or your first and only poll. Who is your client? Your boss, your volunteer organization leader, your peers, all of the above, or none of the above. So let me pull up the poll, and we can have you answer the question. And hopefully you can see the poll. Oh, I got an answer for 2 people, so that means you can see it. Okay. All right, anybody else want to chime in? All right, I'm going to end the poll and share the results with you. And that is moving really slow. Can you guys see it? Interesting. Marianne, can you see it? Can anybody else see it? Everybody else can see it? Okay. All right. So based on 3 of the 4 of you guys answering, the answer that was most selected was all of the above: my boss, my volunteer organization lead, and my peers. Let's talk about the none of the above, and then we don't have to pinpoint who said none of the above, but if you were thinking about those people, what would you come up with as to why none of those people would be a client? Any thoughts?
I wouldn't say that none of those. I would say they're not limited to those. I actually chose none of the above. I did that because I thought in the context of you know, who are you, like, who's your client, who you be serving? You're serving the person who's going to have a need for your service or product. So not necessarily a person that will have superiority over you, but someone that's going to benefit from what you have. Your boss and your organizational lead and, you know, your supervisor or whatever, yes, I mean, you are serving them in one respect, but when we're talking about, like, you know, you in a business setting, I would say who's ever you are want to reach directly.
Okay.
So that's why.
And PJ, you make a great point, is I've only put 3 possibilities, and all of those 3 are yours, but it's not limited to those. So you are right on, and they have the right answer is all of the above and not only the above. So maybe I should have rephrased it differently, but definitely. And we're going to talk about specifically who our customers are. And again, you've touched it so eloquently, is we have internal and external customers. So the first thing that people think of when they think about a customer is it's like, oh, I'm not a salesperson. But in this particular class, we are our own brand. We are the message. So we do have customers, even if we're not in sales mode. So an internal customer is somebody that's in your organization that you interact with. It could be somebody that's a peer. It could be your boss. It could be the boss's boss. It's, you know, an internal customer are the people that you work with every day. And external customers are obviously typically people that pay for or use your product or service. But when Marianne and I talked about how we were going to layer this this hour and a half, is we wanted to take something that we thought maybe all of you guys have some experience with or may want to, and that is volunteering. So even though you may fit into the category of, you know, internal customers because of your job that you have, we wanted to share it from a perspective of, you know, if you were volunteering, so they're not paying for your services, but they are not part of your day-to-day operation. So again, our customers are basically everyone that we interact with. And then, like I said, we're specifically presenting this from a volunteer perspective, but if you have thoughts or insights based on your personal, internal, or external customers, feel free to use that too. So now that we know who our customers are, the thing that we wanted to spend some time talking about is, I always get confused with content and context. You know, I mean, I know what content is and I know what context is, but when I'm actually thinking about it, I probably overthink it. So we thought we'd get down to the fundamentals and actually just talk about what is content, context. So what do you guys think context is? Arlie?
Content.
I'm sorry, say that again.
Can you hear me?
Now I can, yeah.
Anything that influences the content.
Okay, tell me more.
So the things that like affect it or help you see it, or but are not the actual thing, but the things that are related to it that are important.
Mm-hmm. And again, perfect definition. And the thing when you were saying that is using weasel words does not make context, because weasel words are words that aren't relevant to the for the need to get the message across. But in context, you got to paint the picture. So in my mind, the way I remember context is I got to tell the backstory. I got to tell a little bit about the history. I have to share why I came to the conclusion that I came to, you know, give it some flavor or some meat that helps the other person get it. Okay. Any other thoughts on context? Marian, any thoughts?
Guys, you know, if you've ever asked a question, I don't get it. Or someone asked the question of you, I don't get it. You didn't give them the context. Okay, you've made a statement, you've drawn a conclusion, and they're like, what? And that's the importance of context. It's the story around it. And it's not, War and Peace, but it really is a short description about, what they're about to hear. So they go, oh, this makes sense. So just keep that in mind. It's sort of a precursor to, the key point that you're trying to make. And you don't have to go on for days, because then they'll lose the content. But you have to set them up to get it. And even if they don't see things the way you see it, painting the context will help you and them have a dialogue, even if it's something that's different. Okay.
So, and when we were talking, and Marian, thank you for that. PJ, a couple of weeks ago, you talked about the sneakers guy. Okay, so, so you comment on somebody for using it as an example for context is, 1,000 people will walk by somebody that has sneakers on and maybe make no comment, but you made a comment. And so to be able to say, well, let me just tell you why I noticed that, it's because I'm a runner too, or I can't tie my shoelaces as cool as you can, or some reason, again, the reason why the conversation is taking place, the reason that you're trying to create this environment of sharing where you're coming from and having people nod their heads and have those aha moments. So, and to Marian's point is, when they don't get it, I think I put it in one of the discussion questions. The first thing that I do is it you or is it me? And 9 times out of 10, it's me, because I didn't set up the context, or I didn't give enough information, or I assumed you knew more than you knew. So again, sometimes it's just you, but most of the time when you actually play that internal game, I realize that it's because I took a quick jog down where I wanted to go instead of actually taking a slower meandering path so that everybody would understand the reason why. Okay, good. Good. All right. So again, Marian and I always like to put in some academic dictionary description. So the definition for context is the entire situation, background, or environment that's relevant to a particular event, idea, personality, creation, etc. And I think the important word in there is relevant. Marian said, War and Peace is a big book. And no offense to the guy who wrote War and Peace, but it's got way too much content for me. So it's got to be relevant. And, we have to do that personal pulling things out of our head. That doesn't make, does that need to be shared in order for me to have them get it? And we have to do that on the fly. So in a moment's notice, you have to decide, do they really need to know that I was caught in a rainstorm down on the Gulf. Well, and if it doesn't have anything to do with the context that you need to share, you have to, on the fly, make the decision to pull it out. So again, the important word for me in context is it's got to be relevant to paint the bigger picture. Okay, so what did I am moving fast. So, you know, I wanted to spend some time talking about mission and vision. Why do I think this is important? We put it in our learning objectives for today, and obviously it's got its own full screen. Why is mission and vision, why does it matter? So maybe I'll ask a different question. Who can tell me their company's or even Newman's mission or vision statement? Any ideas of your own or of Newman's? All right, so
Can I make it more personal?
yeah,
Okay. So guys, think back 6 weeks ago. Frightening, huh? What was your vision for this course? And what'd you see yourself learning in this course? What was your vision? Now, I know I don't have Alzheimer's sitting in front of me. So like, why'd you take this course? Let's start there. What was the vision? Carly, you talked to your boss. You picked this course. Why?
I'm actually looking to see if I can find the vision and mission for at least one of the companies I work with.
Just talk to us about you, because
No,
this is really important. Why did you guys pick this?
I think we both thought it was interesting, and like, I think, like I said on the first class, like, what don't we know about this? Like,
Yes.
what is it that we're maybe missing that we should be thinking about?
So her vision, Carly, I'm paraphrasing from what you just said, was to fill in the blanks about business etiquette. Right? Okay.
Yeah.
And the mission, Carly, how did what steps do you think you needed to take to succeed and meet that vision?
I'll enroll and participate.
There you go. Okay. And guys, it comes down to something, a little more complex, obviously, in the business world. But if I had to look at your personal vision and mission for this class, I gotta believe it's probably similar to Carly's. Okay. So the vision is the success you see for yourself, and the mission are the steps you take to meet that vision of success. Okay. And that's how they work together. And in the bigger scheme of things, it's, exactly what the organizations are trying to do. But it's important that if you don't have a personal mission, and it doesn't have to be the capital M, just like this is, or the personal vision, this is what I'm hoping to do. And Jacqueline, you talked to us about that the first night. I'm looking to move up, and I want to make sure that I know how to navigate more effectively to move up. Well, now that vision of Jacqueline's is different than Carly's, but that's the personal vision that each of them had. Just as an example. But the missions, Jacqueline, I got to believe that your mission was the same as Carly's. So it's participate and learn, right? There you go. So that's how we drive this home for you. So why does it matter? Using our ladies, excuse me, as examples, why does vision and mission matter?
so let's play it forward to, and again, a great example about bringing it home, but every organization has these. And I'm sure that if we had time, we could have you Google search your organization, and you would be able to pull up mission statement or go to their websites and find it. So they may not be, top of mind, or they may not even be, the first 5 clicks that you get if you go to a company's website. But trust me, everyone's got it. And so, Marianne, and your discussion about the mission statement for personal, yours is a 7-week long mission and vision. The end result is that at the end of 7 weeks, you'll have completed what it is that you were doing, all these little steps along the way to hit your vision. And then it's done. And, you use it and you expand, or you get promoted, or you grow. But companies and everyone that you work for and with have these. And the reason that we want to stress it is because as we get into our capstone assignment, is you're going to be making a presentation. And you should always think, when you present something, when you're trying to look for somebody to make some action, especially from a business perspective or a volunteer perspective, is you got to know you need to know what theirs is. And so in my mind, the fundamentals is, all right, I've got to make a presentation to X, figure out what the vision statement is, and how does your presentation or your pitch or your interest in volunteering relate back to that. Okay. So that's kind of how we connect it. And so that's why it's really important. And I really would love you to take some time, not now, but take some time and look at your organization's, mission or vision statement. Obviously the three big ones are mission, vision, and values. I don't need you to do, heavy lifting on this, but it's something, especially if you're working for an organization, you should know what your job is and how it connects to that. And I'll give you one story, and I've been sharing this story forever, but it's new to you. So I'm going to share it. Marian, sorry, you've heard this 100 times. So the way I try to come up with an example is that if you're in an organization that you are miserable day in and day out, you hate going to work and you don't know why, chances are that if you step back and look at their vision statement or their mission statement, that what your integrity or your values are do not align with them. And so you're constantly having an electric shock every time you go to the office. And so the story that I share is, you probably all have heard of Ben and Jerry's. Okay. So Ben and Jerry's, the guys are in Vermont. They're the two college graduates. And well, let me ask you guys, do you guys know the Ben and Jerry backstory? Anybody know the story? Okay. So Ben and Jerry graduate. Their parents said, "You're not sleeping in our basement. You got your degree. You need to go and do something with your life." And so they had, between the two of them, they had $10,000, and they decided that they were going to start a bagel company. So they went over to a used mart where they were selling all the used equipment, and they went in and found a bagel machine for $11,000. And they said, guess we can't buy that. So they looked around some more, and they found an ice cream machine where they could make ice cream for $10,000. And they looked at each other and said, how hard could it be to make ice cream? We could take a mail order course and we can learn how to make ice cream. So obviously the story goes, they've made lots of Chunky Monkey and all of the other ice creams that they have. But one of the things that Ben and Jerry were passionate about before it became more mainstream is they believed in the environment. They made sure that everything was the healthiest, the less preservatives. They believed in hugging a tree, for lack of a better word. And they were very passionate about that. And as a company, everyone that worked for them would be the same way. So the example that I use is that if I wanted to go work in Ben and Jerry's, but I wear a full-length mink coat, from the day Thanksgiving comes through, May, I'm, wearing leather shoes, and I wouldn't want to hug a tree because I'm not all about the environment. Our mission or their vision and me would be, a miss. And so therefore you should look at your organization, as well as if you're going to volunteer with an organization, to make sure that you guys have the synchronization going, which is why the topic about mission and vision is on today's agenda. Does that make sense? Okay. All right, good. So the next thing I wanted to bring up is, what do you think keeps your boss, teacher, or your partner up at night? So think about your world that you're in right now. What are some of the things that you think, as somebody that's working with them, might be keeping them wondering and worrying about the business? What do you guys think?
If you'll make projected sales.
Okay. So the boss is looking at quarterly numbers saying, are we going to be able to make those numbers? Are we going to be able to hit our mark? All right, good. PJ, you started to say something?
I would just saying if mitigating lawsuits or risk, so that could be a major point of contention for a boss if there's anyone when they're in an organization that could cause a potential lawsuit, or is there anything that they have failed to be in compliance in as a leader of an organization, so they can avoid any penalties.
Okay, those are two great ones. Carly or Namir, any thoughts?
For me,
Carly? Carly, we missed you. What did you
oh,
say?
I'm sorry. They pretty much covered it for me, like, not completing the stuff, and yeah.
Okay, Namir, what about you?
I was gonna follow up with the very first response. That was the best response for me. I agree with her.
Hitting the numbers?
Yeah, like just meeting goals. That's like very important for anybody at an organization, really.
Okay, all right. And so the reason that we put this up here, and those are all great, and that's what I want you to think about, because this is, if you're going to be presenting anything to your leadership, if we're not talking volunteers, if we're going to talk about your leadership, you got to make it relevant to what you think keeps them up at night. And so that's why the whole thing, what do they really care about? And so if it's about the numbers, if it's about mitigate little, having a very few or no lawsuits, I mean, whatever it is, when you're going to come up with a idea, some kind of proposal, you got to make sure that it connects to what's really keeping them up at night. Okay, because that's like the easiest way to get the yes. If I had to come up with any kind of way to think about it, what do they care about? So as we start formulating the tactics of how do you actually make the presentation, you've got to go to vision and mission. What are they? What keeps your boss up at night, or your teacher up at night? And then you can build the program or the proposal that you're coming up with. Okay. So the last point was really, what are their hot buttons? And if you've been working with your organization for anything over 6 months, you probably have got a really clear picture of it. The first 6 months, and the reason I use 6 months is it's a honeymoon period. You don't know what you don't know yet. So, you're bringing in a lot of new ideas and people are listening to you a little differently. But after 6 months, you find out what the jargon is. You find out what the lay of the land is. You find out what they care about. And so at that point, if you haven't taken the time to think about it, because, we're all busy with our jobs and taking a class at night, is, step back and think about it. What do they care about? What are their hot buttons? And what can you propose that can make their lives easier or the company's vision quicker to achieve? All right, so a couple things you want to think about. You got to start with the fundamentals. This is a communication checklist. If you want to put together an effective presentation or document, we're using PowerPoint, and that's what you're going to be presenting to Marion and I next week. But it could be a document that you write. Who's your audience? Is your audience your boss? Is your audience a project management team? Is your audience, shareholders in the organization? What are they interested in? Back to what keeps them up at night, and what are their hot buttons? And then the last one, and this is the one that we want you to really spend some time thinking about. What do you want them to remember? Okay, kind of like what Marion and I talk about for these 7 weeks is, find one thing in each of the sessions that you can take away with you. That's what we want you to remember. And hopefully after December 8th, you'll still have those with you. So think about what it is that you want them to remember. Okay, so if you're going to talk about increasing your value with an organization, we have 9, I think there's 9 points, 6 or 9 points. Anyhow, the first 2 are, you got to ask questions constantly. Why? What do you think about this? Listen, and then ask a deeper question, and then ask a deeper question. So there's a game that, you can go to Google and you can find it, but it's the 5 whys. So really, if you really want to find out what the true problem is, you ask leading questions so that you can get more information, and then dig deeper and deeper so that you actually find out what it is that they really are looking for. Because sometimes if you ask one question that answer is really not what they're looking for. So you have to take the time to think about what they said, listen carefully, and then ask another probing question. And then brainstorm with your current clients on how to increase your business. So if you're in a situation that I'm trying to think, PJ, you're in the prison environment, right? But am I correct?
Off the correction side of it,
The
office
correction side of it.
Yeah.
Okay, so, if you brought up the situation earlier about you want to make sure that litigation was, minimized or, it's not even there. Think about, how do other people do it? How do other organizations do it? So the world doesn't have to be, the people like the inmates that you're working with, but look at other organizations that have the same situation and find out how they do it. So again, brainstorm with others is a good step to help increase your value. So you're more than just the butt in the chair in your office or on your Zoom videos. And I have an exercise for you. You don't need to do anything really special. Just find a piece of paper and pencil. We have a workbook like we have every week that's got 18 lines, but you can just get a piece of paper and pencil. And I'm going to read you a list of 18 words that relate to each other. You're not going to write them down. This is an honor system now. You're not going to write them down while I'm saying it. But when I'm done, I want you to write down everything that you can remember. Okay? Does everybody have a pen and paper? Okay. All right. So I'm going to say start. Don't count start. And I'm going to say end. So it's everything between start and end. All right. You guys are ready? I'm going to give you 18 words and then a minute to write it down. Start. Pillow, mattress, sleep, snore, sheet, frame, sleep, night, pad, drool, twin, sleep, rest, cuddle, blanket, alarm, toss, dream, stop. So take a minute, write it down, all the words that you remember. Right, 10 more seconds. All right, so how many got 18 words? Okay, Jacqueline's like, no. Anybody get 18? And Marion, you've heard this 100 times, so you probably had all 18 down. In a heartbeat, right? All right, so the first question I have is, what was the first word I said? If you can take you guys off of mics and just throw it out. Namir.
Pillow.
Okay. Anybody else have any thoughts?
Well, after start, it was pillow, I think.
Okay. Carly, Jacqueline, PJ, what do you think? Not too sure. Okay. Well, the correct answer is pillow. And 60% of the people that you talk to will remember the first word or the first phrase that you say. Okay. All right. So what was the last word before stop? Stop. What was the last word I said?
I'm probably wrong, but I'm gonna say alarm. That was one of those ones towards the end.
Okay, alarm. Anybody agree with Anyone have another word?
Was it dream?
Okay. Does anybody else have a thought? Do you agree with Carly? Alarm or dream or something else? Okay. The correct answer is dream.
Hmm.
And 75% of the people that you talk to will get the last thing that you say. Okay. All right. I have two more questions. What word did I repeat 3 times?
Sleep?
Okay, got Jack. Who said sleep? Jacqueline? Okay. Carly's shaking her head. PJ,
Yeah.
Namir, what are your thoughts?
I heard you say it, but I didn't realize you said it 3 times.
Well, I may not have.
I have sleep. I have sleep written down actually, but
Uh-huh.
I don't remember how many times you said it.
Okay. I said sleep 3 times, and 80% will remember the word or phrase if you repeat it 3 times. Okay, so my last question is, did you say something or write something down that you're like, I'm not too sure she said it? What would that word be? Look at your list. Carly's shaking her head as she already knows. What?
Yeah, the last 2 I wrote down, I'm just like, they're in the theme. She might have said bedroom and bedtime. It's like, I feel like maybe, I don't know.
All right, we got bedroom and bedtime. Any other things that you look at the list and saying, did she say it?
Did you say sheets or you just said sleep a couple times? Like, did you say sheets?
I said sheet, not
Oh,
sheep.
I
Okay, but
had it. Okay.
okay, so sheep.
Oh, sheep.
Okay.
Uh,
Jacqueline or PJ, anything that's looking at your list going, I'm not too sure now.
Did you say pen?
I said pad.
Pad. Okay, I had pen.
Okay. Jacqueline, any thoughts? Nope. All right, so 20% of the people that you're going to be talking to is going to hear or think they heard something that you never said. Okay, so I never came close to the things that the 4 words that you guys came up with. But as you're talking to people, 20% of the people are going to hear something totally different than you thought you said to them. Okay. All right. So why do you think this happens? Thank you for playing, by the way. I love this game. Why does it happen? I gave you 18 words. How hard is it? Well, I'll throw one out at you because we are virtual. Like PJ wrote down pen and I said pad. I think that's what you said. Okay, so part of it is going to be because of the way we're communicating with each other. The same thing with sheet or sheep. If I didn't enunciate, so half of the misunderstanding or mishearing is because the person who's speaking isn't, I think I was speaking very clearly, but it wasn't heard very clearly. Okay, so what else? Why do you think all this happens besides what I just shared?
For me, it was the pressure of trying to remember it at the end of it, since I wasn't allowed to write anything as you spoke. So it was, I'm trying to remember all 18 words. In reality, it was like, what, 15 words? So in my head, I'm like, all right, 18. And then, then going back to write it down, it was like kind of a challenge. So I think the pressure of trying to remember it had a great deal to play for me.
No, you know what? It's a great point. But think about it. You're getting called into a meeting and they say, this is really important. And the first thing that I do, like PJ did, is, and I got to remember and hear all this. And even though it was 18 words. So no, great, PJ, that was perfect. Anybody else have any thoughts? All right, my final question is, so what can we learn from this? There's a lesson in here. What can we learn from this?
Carlene, if I could.
Yeah.
So guys, I think another reason that we hear things is because we're giving the words or the message our own context. And, you may not have said it, I may not have said it, but, if you put all the words together, they're painting a different picture for each of us. And even though I didn't say it, that's what you think I said, because the context evolves. What do you think about that, guys? Does that sort of make sense? Or you're connecting the dots in a different way, or you're filling in your own blanks? But I'm kind of thinking that you may group the message together and create your own context. What are your thoughts? You think that happens or not? To you or others that you work with?
I think it happens a lot, especially when you're telling someone a story or someone's not in the
Yes.
same room. You are relaying that story in the way that you would perceive it, or with your
Yes.
own words,
Yes.
or with your own overtones, I
Yes.
should say.
Yes.
So then how you share a story, how I'm going to receive it is different than
Mhm.
what the originator might have tended it to be. And I think that
Yes.
happens a lot of
Yeah.
times, that people share a story or an account of an event, and when you share it, you're not going to deliver it the same way
Yeah.
it was originally intended to be delivered.
Mhm.
So then that causes miscommunications within, with everything.
Sure. Excellent.
Well, and
Excellent.
PJ, you make a great point when you said, the pressure was on. I said you couldn't write anything down until I was done talking. So you had noise in your head because you were thinking, oh my, so remember we talked about noise, I think in session 1, so there were each and every one of you had some noise going on. And then probably the third or fourth word in, you're thinking, oh, I think there's some similarities here. And then therefore the noise took you down a different path, which is what is similar about them. So I had 3 or 4 more words that came out while your mind was going down another track. And then finally you said, oh, it has something to do with the bedroom or the bed or the whatever. And all that noise gets in the way. And so, translated to our work world, like PJ said, is there is so much that can happen between what the words that came out of my mouth and what you actually heard. And we just have to pay attention to it. And that's the reason we did the exercise, because how we say something at the very beginning is critically important. How we end it is really important. And if there's something that you really want to say, you got to say it more than once. So, and then know that still 20% of the people, as perfect as everything was, are going to think something that never came out of your mouth. Okay. All right, good. All right, you guys did a great job. Marion, do you want to check chat for me? So what? Oh, go on. So let's talk about purpose for a moment, because you're going to be putting together a presentation for us, and ultimately throughout your career, you're going to have opportunities to present. And so we wanted to go over some fundamentals that will be a great tool for consistent delivery and acceptance. You want to get to yes, that's what our whole goal is. So you want to tell the people that you're presenting to is what the purpose of this presentation is. So I hate to say KISS, keep it simple, stupid, but the reason we're here today is because we're going to talk about mud in the laundry room. Okay, now I know what everything else is going to happen is going to be about mud in the laundry room. So describe what the original problem was and your solution. That's what you want to get. And so different from an elevator pitch, which is short and sweet, this is going to be, it's got to be more information so that they get the context to it. So you're painting the picture. So again, what the purpose is, and then what the problem was, it's caused you to bring up this conversation with the people that you're presenting it to. Okay. So I'm going to talk about format. And again, some of this may feel, that you've gone through it before, but I think there's a couple good points in here that might be a nugget that you can take away is, what is the presentation going to do? So what is the point of it? Again, we were talking about volunteerism and, so what are you trying to get to have? Are you looking for money? Are you looking for, support? Are you looking for, more crates for your animals? And then obviously this what the recommendations are. You got to tell them did you ever hear the saying, tell them, and tell them? I mean, that was drummed in my head in school, tell them what you're going to tell them, and tell them what you told them. And so that's kind of what you want to use as a guide. And again, that's just effective presentations. It is a way to outline, and help the people get you want a yes. And so those things will help people get to a yes instead of saying, I'm not too sure what. Well, if you tell them what you're going to tell them, you actually do tell them, and you tell them what they told them, then it's really clear what it is that you're looking for. Okay. So I have to move your pictures because they're all over the words. So data. So we have to think about it. It can't be an opinion piece. There should be some kind of data that supports what you're thinking about. So you may have a great idea, but doing a quick Google search or going to the library to get some information about the problem, other companies in your same vertical, the industry that you're in, if you're in the credit union space, is there similar information or data that the banks use that you can transfer over to credit unions or, whatever the organization is? And then you should, note, we found this information on Bank of America's, website as, problems or their annual report. And so this is the background or context that we were talking about. The important part is you only spend the time that you actually really truly need here, because data is a death knell if you spend too much time going over the numbers. And we're going to talk about the slides in themselves. And usually people feel like if I throw a whole bunch of numbers on a screen, then they're going to look at the numbers and get what they want. You don't want to give them that opportunity. If you have to throw up some numbers, you need to be able to circle the two that you really want to point out specifically so that they get, again, the message that you're doing. So again, do your research, but don't take your presentation. And we're going to talk about how long your presentation should be. So only spend what is absolutely necessary in the data points. And then finally, the conclusion is, okay, the conclusion based on this research, based on what I presented to you from these facts is we need more money, we need more staff, we need more animals, we need whatever it is that the conclusion is be. Now, this is the setup, but it's not the final conclusion. So you're telling them what it is that you're looking for. So it's a strategy game, and a pretty simple strategy game. So this is what some of the things that you might want to think about. You got to think about what is it that you want your audience to do. If you want them to give you a raise, if you want to be promoted, if you want to get some funding for a project, or if you want somebody to come over to your team, so what is it that the audience you want them to do? So this means that, so based on my data, this means that I need to hire 6 more people to be able to help with the project. And then what does that recommendation, by you doing that, by you giving us permission for these people, that means that, we're going to be more productive. We will not have as much time on the customer service phone calls. We will, whatever the solution is. Okay. And then part of the presentation is that the most of your time should be spent on this, because this is what they care about. Data is great. I mean, I love data. I love research, but if you spend time about what it is that I want, this is the benefit of us getting the answer, getting the yes. That's what you want to do, because that's where you want their questions to be. You want to be able to have them say, all right, well, what happens if I hire not 6 people, but 4 people? What will that do? So try to spend most of your time on what your solution is. And then the last thing I wanted to talk about is restate what it is that you want. Like, again, tell them, and tell them. So in summary, I wanted to tell you that we need 6 people. It's going to increase our bottom line by this, but it'll increase our net promoter score by X or whatever it is. So restate your points. You got to wrap up the meeting or the document with make sure that they know that it's over with. If there's an action item, make sure that there's something, by next Thursday, we need to make a decision. And then what happens next? So if we make a decision, I will report back to you in 6 months and let you know if the numbers match or when the numbers match what I just shared with you. And then obviously the last thing is you got to thank them because they're taking the time to listen to what you have to say. And if it's part of a normal presentation that goes on in the organization, you still thank them. If it's a special presentation that you're making, obviously the thanks are even that much more important. So we wanted to talk about some keys in present. Well, let me go back. Any questions? I mean, I covered that pretty fast. Any questions, or do you do anything differently when you present something? What are some of your best practices out there?
Guys, just to piggyback on Carlene's question, how do you get your boss to yes based on something that you want? What do you do to get them to yes?
Present evidence to support your claim or whatever you're trying to accomplish, whatever you want done. Just bring some.
And Namir, where do you get your evidence from? I love that word, by the way. Where do you get your evidence from?
You do the research, or it depends on whatever that particular person might be doing. But you come with information in hand, I would say.
Yes. And hopefully, if it's research and results, that if you implement X, the results are Y. The letter Y, not WHY. Yeah, excellent, Namir. Good. Somebody else wanted to. Carly, did you want to weigh in, my friend?
Yeah, I was
How do
just
you
gonna
get to
say,
yes?
I like to present the problem, even if they already know what it is, to present it with my own framework. That way my key fits my problem.
Yep.
And, make sure it's not going to be their problem. It's now my problem and I have the solution.
Yes, excellent. And Carly, that builds on what Carlene just said, which was, that message you delivered before? They didn't get it. So you had to restate the problem. Perfect. Well done. Good. Well, Jacqueline, PJ, what do you do to get to yes? You want your boss to say, go forth and make it happen. What do you do? What makes this work for you? Go ahead, PJ.
Yeah, how can it benefit the boss? Show them how can what I want benefit them as well. It being mutually beneficial for all parties involved and for the company. So I think once you present it in a way, and you might end up with it being a tough sell in one respect, but I think presenting how can it benefit the company overall and the boss and make their job lighter and more efficient at the same time. I think, that would work.
Excellent.
So
Excellent.
PJ, what I really like about what you said is because we focused on the vision and the mission, but how to make your boss look good gets you a lot of great brownie points because they're quicker to say yes because you doing what you say you're going to do just makes them shine too. So, yeah, it's going to ultimately help with the vision of the organization, but your boss will say yes if you show how he's going to look good in it too, without saying, hey, dude, you're going to look really good because I'm doing this. But no, that's great. Excellent. Jacqueline, any thoughts?
I was actually going to say the same thing, to present a win-win situation. So you're not only asking them for something, but you're bringing something of value to the table.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, excellent. All your thoughts are fabulous. Couple things you need to think about, and we haven't talked about how long your presentation should be, but as you create your presentation, which is in the next couple slides, is you got to practice it and time how much you spend on each section. So it can't just be, well, I've written my presentation, so we're just going to go for it. You need to be able to own the room. And so if data is only 6 minutes and you're seeing that it's going longer, you need to say, let me get to the end and we can always circle back and talk about the data. But this is the high point of all the data that I've collected that I want to talk about, which relates back to the reason that we're having this conversation today. So you own, moving it forward. And yes, I get some pushback sometimes that says, but if they're engaged and if they're excited, and that's all well and good, but if they only have an hour or they only have a short window of time, when that hard stop hits, they're out the door and you have gotten to where you needed to get to. So again, keep that in mind, that you can keep circling back to it if they want to spend more time on it. But, and again, I'm not holding a clock going, well, we're 6 minutes in, we have to stop here. But, just know generally where you have to be able to keep moving it forward. And then the last one, which we think is a fundamental, but we think it's important, that you customize the presentation with logos. If you're making an internal presentation, typically the companies that I work with and for, I don't have to use a formal PowerPoint, template if it's internal, but if you're doing an external presentation, if you're doing a presentation to the animal shelter, pull up their, go to Google and get an image and pull up their logo so that you're relating it back to, they can always constantly see that this is about their organization. It's not about a bigger picture than that. Okay, make sense? Okay, we wanted to talk a couple minutes about graphics. I have a love-hate with graphics. Well, I shouldn't say that. Marian has a love-hate with graphics. We both have a different way of finding graphics. We have different styles, but one thing that we both agree on is making it jump around the screen is never a good thing. So, it gets too much movement. You got words on the page and you've got this thing moving up and down and maybe fading in and out. So obviously you got to think about what graphics are. We believe in graphics. We go to different places to source graphics. You can get free graphics from pixabay.com. They got like 17 bazillions plus videos too. So, you can find graphics that you don't have to worry about royalties, especially if it's an external client. You got to keep that in mind. But again, try not to let those graphics move around your screen, because that's not what you're trying to sell. You're trying to sell the points on the page. And I put in here, never use sound. If it's on Zoom, sound is a strange thing that translates poorly across everybody's space. So again, try to avoid sound, if at all possible. All right, and then the last part is practice, practice, practice. Practice with the same equipment. I had a client meeting the other day, and I'm coaching her, and we walked through the entire presentation that she was going to be presenting to somebody. And I said, rehearse, make sure you're using the equipment and everything. And she said, I did, but she failed to mention that she was actually going to take her laptop, which was the presentation, and actually have to do it in a actual conference room with their setup, and she couldn't connect the two. So her vision was this huge screen that ended up being her talking and looking at her laptop the entire time. So if you are going to be making a presentation somewhere other than, like I'm doing right now, we've been doing this for 6 weeks, so chances are it's going to work. I didn't need to practice this morning, but if it's going to be in an environment that's different than yours, get in there and just test everything out. The sound, the way the room's laid out, if you have a podium, all those pieces.
And guys, one other thing I was thinking about as I was listening to Carlene is you need to think about how you're going to deliver this presentation, even with slides. Are you going to have a slide and then a question, and then another slide and a question, another slide and a question? Is that the flow? In other words, do you want your audience to listen to you from start to finish and then ask questions at the end? Or are you looking to present some information and get some feedback, move on, give them some more information, get some feedback? Because that style is totally different timing. You'll never get through a small deck with the information that you want if you include that engagement strategy throughout the presentation. And I'm not saying engagement is right or wrong. I throw it in all the time, but I have to be mindful that I do, because 5 slides in an hour is about the best you can get through. But, so what's more important to you? I don't know. Just if you're going to practice, keep in mind, how am I going to deliver it? Straight through, Q&A at the end, or slide, question, slide, question, slide, question. Timing is totally different. Okay, that's
Marian, You make a great point. One thing I want to, and again, we don't know your world and your presentations, but I personally would never in a trying to get to yes presentation, I would never open the floor for questions like slide questions. And the reason that I wouldn't do that is I would do all my pre-work talking to the players and find out what their questions are and answer it in the presentation, only because we're talking about timing. But again, you know, depending on what the purpose of the presentation is, if it's to solicit information or feedback, that's one thing. But I would use the one that Marianne just shared very judiciously if you're trying to get to yes. Okay, but great point, Marianne. All right, couple key points. Make sure you have an introduction, purpose, why you're doing this. Simple, simple, simple. Keep it simple. Short paragraphs, short sentences. A lot of white space. White space is your best friend, because if you know your material, all you need is a kind of a teaser. Now, keep in mind, Marianne and I have more words on a page than we would normally do if we were making a presentation, but this is a class, so it's, you know, kind of a different format. But again, look at it, you know, carefully, because if you know your content, or you know, you're presenting and you have another slide that can have all your notes, you can read all the words you want off your notes, or even a teleprompter. I mean, if you're doing it virtually, there are free tools out there that you can actually have your teleprompter taking your entire script and there's 2 words on the screen. So keep that in mind. Tables and figures stand on their own. I like to use tables and have it grayed out and then only circle the one that we're going to be talking about so that they know where I got the information if it's an internal Excel document. But again, if you give them too much clutter, it's going to be all clutter in their head. And our text should stand by itself, and there's nothing too obvious to say. So, you know, for example, we talked jargon last week. So you're going to be talking to a bunch of senior leaders at the credit union. All right. So they've been around forever. They know what that jargon is. So, but it's still never too obvious to say, and that means assistant regional director, or that means whatever the, you know, or the acronym is. So, you know, because again, you don't want the clutter and the noise in their head going, what is it that she's referring to? She or he is referring to. Okay. 5 times 5. Rule of thumb, no more than 5 words per line of text and no more than 5 lines of text per slide. Okay. 5 by 5. No more than 5 words per line and no more than 5 lines of text per slide. Does anybody do anything differently? Have you guys heard this before? Have you thought about it? PJ shaking his head. No, you haven't thought about it. Okay. All right. So we're going to talk about our pitch. You guys are going to be creating a pitch for us. The optimal number of slides that I think we're asking you to do 6 because we've had 6 weeks of class. But if you're making a presentation in your organization, you want to use no more than 5 slides. So pick carefully what you're going to put on the slides. So, and the reason is that a normal person, a normal human being that's been in business or even new into business can only comprehend so much information. I mean, you are feeding them information that you may have been living with and building your deck for weeks, but they're hearing it the first time. So you want, again, back to keep it simple. So the optimum number of slides if you're making a pitch is 5. And you're probably thinking in your head, well, wait a second, I got an hour to fill. Well, first off, we're going to talk about font. The standard rule of acceptable font is 32 font for the heading and 24 font for the body. If you're using a company template, they will have already pre-identified the font sizes and you don't want to start messing with that. But again, if you're creating a PowerPoint of your own, those are the guidelines that we give. Clutter doesn't work and you have to make it pleasing, and large is okay. So if your point is really important and it's, even if you have only 4 or 5 words that you want to say, if it's really something that you want to punctuate, you can make it big. So large is okay if, again, you're trying to make a point. Okay, so the pitch should be typically 20 minutes. So 5 slides, 20 minutes. Now, we're recommending that the presentation is 20 minutes, but you book an hour. So if you're going to be making a presentation and you've got whoever's going to be in the room, your senior leaders, you know, get them from 11 to 12. But you know that your pitch is 20 minutes and that you're going to present your slides in 20 minutes. And afterwards, all the questions should be coming up, or you could refer back to the data if somebody had a question earlier on about the data. And that gives you 40 minutes to really, you know, close the deal. What do you guys think of that? Too little, too much? Or do you have a secret that you can share with us? So I will tell you that I didn't believe in this when I first started my career because, and Marion and I, we debate over how many slides we need to have when we're even putting together presentations. And one of the things that I have learned over time is that it really does allow me, the presenter, to know what I want to say. Because we, you know, yes, we can read, you know, 12 words on a page and, you know, that's easy. But there's so many more things behind each of these things that I could do if I didn't have to, if I didn't have to keep flipping the slides forward so I can see what my next point is. So again, it may sound like, oh my gosh, only 5. But if you really think about what your content's going to be, what the context is going to be, and you know you got 20 minutes, and then you answer all the questions later, you'll start feeling pretty comfortable with it, I believe. Okay, so again, I mentioned a low number of slides really forces you to concentrate on the things that are really important. And again, if you're flipping through slides, it's almost like you haven't been able to take your thoughts and really consolidate them. So we've been asked before, okay, what if I need 6 slides? Okay, you know what? You got permission for that 6 slide. But don't look at 46 slides and think it's okay. All right. And like I said, your homework is specifically going to be, your capstone homework is going to be 6 slides. So again, you're concentrating on the content. And again, we talk, I think you guys, you know, all know this, is that, you know, when somebody says, I want you to write something in 1,500 words, your thought is, you know, I got 2,000 or 3,000 words worth of things I need to say. I can't write a document in 1,500. And the point of that is not because I only want to read 1,500 words. It's because we want to help you go from this to this. And so that's the whole method, you know, the methodology behind it. All right, so let's talk about tying it all together. So you want to tell, remember we talked about context, you want to tell real stories. So if you have a story that relates to what it is that you're presenting, use it. Again, if you're in business, so Carly, I work for Fiserv in my career, which is the data processing back to the house, not the drug company. And so telling stories of my experiences in customer service at my other organization that I worked with really helped, because it was in financial services, really helped punctuate what I had to sell, because I was telling like type stories, even though they crossed industry or crossed companies. And it will really help you with your presentation. And again, if you're talking about a product or a service or, you know, volunteering. And again, keep it simple and realistic. When you think about what it is that you want the conclusion to be, is it realistic? Okay, you've got somebody's ear and eyes for an hour. You know, are you asking for the moon, or are you asking for something that's realistic and fair and attainable? Okay, and you want to think about, people will remember lots of things or nothing. What is it that you want them to remember? When you're done with your 1 hour, I would ask you to write down on a piece of paper, what is it that I want to have them remember? And then if you have a trusted friend in the presentation, you may even want to say, so what do you remember about that? I've got 18 words for you. Tell me, what do you remember? Okay, so let's talk about lesson learned. We covered a lot of material. It's 22. So we have some time because we need to spend some time on the capstone. Any questions? Anything you want us to go back on? Do you feel like you're going to be masters of PowerPoint presentations or written documents? What do you think about the 5 slides? Carly? Carly, I didn't hear you.
Really tough. I have never seen anybody do it with just so few. It's normally jam-packed and they're reading straight from it. So, brand new concept.
And Carly, that's the problem. That, if you're, that's not a judgment, but that's such a great bad example. Because when you're reading from a massive deck of slides, why don't you just give me the handout? I would have read it myself. All right. So when you're looking at a few slides, especially with, 5 lines, 5 words, each slide is a story. So think about your visuals as guiding a conversation, but not the conversation. Okay, so it's the frame, and then the story behind it is the picture that you're painting them. So, if you're a slide reader, hopefully this will break you from being a slide reader, okay? Because that isn't engaging, and it isn't, it doesn't often get you to yes, because it doesn't look like you did a whole lot of work to put any kind of thought into it, all right? So be prepared to tell your stories, and you can do that 5, 6 slides. Okay.
So I will tell you that I was asked to be, I was with H&R Block, and we had a brand new president, and we were in the field, and we had 10 people from the field that were asked to come in and ask, what would we do with $2 million? That was our assignment. What would you guys do? And we didn't know each other from Adam, but we were 10 people from the field that came into world headquarters. And our job was to figure out what could we do with $2 million. We did research. Everybody took, first off, when you're with a bunch of people that you don't know, you got to, trust them, and you got to build a relationship. So all that was going on. And then we decided everybody would have certain things that they would have to go back and do and come back. And we had 5 weeks to do this whole thing. And price was no object for us to fly in whenever we needed to get together for wherever. Anyhow, we put together this amazing PowerPoint presentation and a backup deck. It was perfect. We practiced it. We did everything that we could. Everybody had a chance to speak for 2 minutes and the whole bit. So we're sitting in the room waiting for him to come in, and we only have an hour. And his secretary comes in and said, I'm sorry, he's running a little late. So we're like, okay, now we're down to 15 minutes. And then we got another, he's really, really sorry. So 22 minutes after we should have started this perfect presentation, we're like, all right, we can cut this, we can cut this, we can cut this, because we knew he had a hard stop, and that was it. So he finally walks in, and we got like 29 minutes to make the presentation. And we had all our books out there, and we had the PowerPoint ready, and we're all standing there in our, suits. And he said, all right, let me, and he picks up the book, and he says, all right, give me a second. And he turns to the back page, and he says, explain this. And the back page was a 1 sheet that basically said how to, what we would take $2 million for. It was like, we would spend this on this, and we'd do this on customer service, and it was that. And he said, tell me about it. And it was like, whoa, whoa. But keep in mind that if you're presenting to somebody that is, a senior leader, you have to be flexible enough and know your material well enough. To Marion's point is that if you had a deck of, 53 slides, and your hour went down to 29 minutes, and then at the very last minute, he turns to the last page and says, talk about this, you have to talk off the cuff anyhow. So pitch the, have a perfect world and be ready to just talk about your 5 slides. Okay. Any other thoughts, questions?
Remember, we're the ones that are important, the audience, not that slide deck. Okay, this is just your visual backup so we can follow your topics. We want to listen to you and your stories. And because honestly, we're going to say yes because of you. And we're going to say yes because of your story. We're not going to say yes because your slide deck was 100 slides.
Mm-hmm.
We're not going to do that. Okay.
All right. So as in every week previously, the discussion question is, what foundation skill did you need to develop to further become more proficient in this topic? So this topic is putting together you can use all the information that we shared for both a PowerPoint as well as a document. But for our purposes in this class, we're going to have you create PowerPoints. But again, the theory is exactly the same. Make sure that the document covers the same information. So that's the discussion question. And homework assignment is to create a proposal for this scenario. You are part of a volunteer organization that needs to recruit additional members. Create a proposal that you will present that identifies at least 3 ways to recruit volunteers, as well as keep those that are still part of the team. And this is, again, in the Newman week 6 information. No more than 5 PowerPoint slides. Use everything that you learned today to develop your slides. And then remember the 5x5 rule. And post your assignment under the assignments link in week 6.
Hey, Carlene, we didn't talk about this previously, but so I'm going to throw something out. Please disagree with me.
I disagree.
Okay.
Oh, I'm supposed to wait until you say it. Sorry.
Wait, let me tell you something. Namir, go ahead, my friend. You start.
Yeah, it could be really anything, or does it have to be directly related to a certain topic that you would like to see as far as the organization, the type of organization?
Carlene, you've got the scenario, but Namir asks a fair question. Could it be something else? What do you think?
So the answer is, as long as the proposal has 3 ways to do something. So we want you to think through. So if you're not part of a volunteer organization, but in your business organization, we don't want you to, our thought was not to have you do extra work. So if you don't have a volunteer organization, but you have another organization that you want to do this for, I think Marion and I are okay with that.
Sure. Does that answer your question, Namir?
Yeah, and
Well, do you have something in mind? Let's do by example. I'm better by example. So what are you thinking about? I'm not holding you to this, but just, give us a thought.
so you basically want us to speak on a organization that we are with, or are we creating our own organization for this?
Your organization.
Okay.
Yeah. So is there some problem that you could solve and address? Or you could do the volunteer thing that Carlene has on the slide. If you're part of a volunteer organization and you're looking for additional people to join in, how do you recruit them? Okay, so, but it should be like a problem, not this big, okay, that you'd like to make a suggestion about. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So if you don't have a personal problem that you're dealing with at work, this could be your homework. But if you do have one in the mirror that you're thinking about, again, whatever the problem is, just follow the same steps that we just identified for our time together and present it that way. And again, still 5 slides, and that would be okay. And that's for everybody. It's not just for me here.
Full organization if we needed it, or
I'm sorry, we missed the first part, Carly.
can it be like a theoretical organization that we're a part of, or does it have to be like completely real world?
Well, I will tell you that I will do no Google search on the organization that you put out there. So it could be whatever organization that you choose to use. It could be an internal company one that you change the name to protect the innocent. Or it could be this scenario. We were just trying to make it as easy for you as possible.
That was a part of my question. Sorry about that.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah,
well, she really was asking kind of what I was trying to ask too.
Yeah.
So yes, the answer is yes, you can make up an organization. We just picked volunteer because when we were brainstorming before we got to meet all you guys, we were thinking about, what might be some similar things that you guys are all dealing with. And so we picked volunteer, but that was just a pick. So yeah, you can find an organization and then create the 5-slide pitch to us. That would be okay.
Yeah. Carly, you know what, I actually, Namir, I'm sorry, because I don't have an answer for you, but I have an idea for Carly and PJ. So Carly, you could use this example and like really pull it into your organization, and rather than volunteers, you're looking for additional donors. Okay, so like, would that be like corporate donors, individual people? Like, what does that look like? So you could replace members with donors as an example. Okay, and PJ, I was thinking, okay, on the correction side, are you involved concerned with thinking about recidivism? Yeah, okay. So PJ, you could think about your 3 ideas, okay, to reduce the level of recidivism. Okay, and it doesn't, and now again, both of you, it doesn't have to be full-blown a detailed plan. These are ideas you're presenting here to your boss to get to yes, and then you'll flush them out. So, PJ, I was thinking like if it's pre-release program, a mentorship, or gosh, it's been so long since I've done those types of programs. But from what I remember, I'm thinking that they were kind of popular. Like, how could we get people back into the community so they didn't come back to prison? Like that idea. So, think about something, Namir, that, might be happening in your organization, something small, that it's like an annoyance. Or, if like your organization is having trouble recruiting people, which, the labor shortage is ridiculous right now. So, what would your ideas be to attract people to where you work? I mean, that's a real issue. Now, Namir, it doesn't have to be that, but it could be something like that. It doesn't have to be big. It just has to be an annoyance that seems to be recurring to people in your organization.
In our basically in our introductions, are we saying what our position is within the organization while we are explaining the task or the objective of the meeting, or is that just up in the air? Like, do y'all want to know exactly what we do already pre-existing to what the meeting is about with our boss? And what are we trying to gain from the result of the conversation?
So Namir, back to Marian's I would start with the purpose. We have this going on in our organization, and therefore this is why this is the presentation I'm making to get to yes. So I think that would give us what we need. It doesn't matter. You don't need to present yourself. This isn't about you. This is about how you take the concept of putting these slides together. So, and even if we said yes, Namir, that probably won't get you anything. So again, we don't need to know your personal backstory about why this is important as much as what's the purpose and what you're trying to solve.
Yeah, and Namir, I'm going to build on that for a minute. Like, for example, or tell me what your job is, my friend. Just remind me.
My position or just the job itself?
Yeah, your position.
I'm a payment specialist. I deal with payments.
Great. Okay. So, Namir, you can say that, after working, and this would be part of an introduction because this kind of gives the purpose context. So, after working at this organization for pick a number of years, okay, and in this job for pick a number of years, I've noticed that this problem recurs. So the purpose of this presentation is to present 3 ideas that would help expedite payments or processing of payments or something like that. So that makes it really personal to your job, if that is indeed an issue that you're facing, or, how to address delinquent accounts, or, ways to make a collection call that isn't as intrusive. You could really look at your idea, and getting to yes is basic, Namir, is, getting your boss to go, I never thought about that. I think we should try it. So, sometimes we present, I mean, Carlene and I present things that, will change the way leaders work, the way organizations work. We're not asking that. We're looking at, what can you do to, say, this is a nuisance and it keeps recurring. And I'd like to make 3 suggestions about how we could address it to benefit the organization. So Namira can be that personal. And I don't mean personal as in your best friend, but like something that bothers you on your job, something the way things are being processed or not, as the case may be. So that might be an idea. Does that help a little bit? Taking it from like huge to something that, it's just a nuisance and you want it to go away.
Okay.
Jacqueline, we've done nothing to help you. Got any ideas? Not yet. I have to think, Jacqueline. I don't have an idea. I don't have an idea, and that bothers me because I can't suggest something for you. Unless you want to talk about, Jacqueline, you may want to talk about the job posting system because you want to get promoted. You want to find a way to, cut through the red tape, if you will, even though unheard of in the government. All right, a lot of red tape. But you may want to, talk about how to streamline the job posting process for internal versus external clients. I don't know, just, that might be something very personal. Again, much like the mirror, something that you're looking for that if you could break through this nonsense, it would be wonderful. Not that the government would ever say yes, but let's pretend, Jacqueline, okay? Anyway, so they're just ideas, guys, not absolutes, but I wanted to bring it home so you could see how you could make it work. What do you think? Helpful, not helpful? What do you think? They don't care.
Okay, so I'm going to tell you, you have another assignment. So you have 2 assignments. That's what we don't want. We want you to keep the first one, really specific.
Tight.
This one, tight is a great word. This assignment is what you're going to physically present to us on next week. Each of you guys are going to make your presentation, and the presentation is you have to have a cover slide. And like I said earlier, you need 6 slides because 1 slide representing each of the weeks that we've made a presentation. So the first one was, first impressions. This one was about customer care, and everything in between. So each of them would be 6 slides. And again, you're going to present as if we are the people that you want to get a yes from. So you got to come dressed for success. Your presentation is only 5 minutes. Again, keep in mind all the things that we talked about, the rule, the 5x5 rule. And again, we want to hear the story. We want to hear your passion. We want it to be relatable. So all of us are going to be listening and taking it in. And so again, find a story that's relevant to you and weave it in. And then you're going to post your assignment under the assignments link. And so for next week, it's all about you. Any questions?
And then you can see what it's like to have silence.
Yeah, I have a question. How exactly are the presentations going to take place as far
Sorry,
as
Namir.
Zoom and everything? How exactly are we going to present through Zoom and everything?
Okay, so on Zoom, I have the capability of sharing the screen. So if you've never done it before, this would be a great opportunity to practice. And if you want to practice with me, send me an email and I will, practice a Zoom. But basically what it does is I give multiple users the right to basically do what I'm doing right now. And the only secret is that your PowerPoint has to be already on your screen open behind your Zoom. And when it says share, you'll go in there and you'll pick something, and it would be obviously your PowerPoint presentation. You hit the share button and magically it'll look like this. But if you want to do a practice, any one of you guys want to do a dry run, send us an email and we'll make sure we get some time to do a quick trial.
Yeah. So guys, just, to summarize, you have to post this in week 6. But for next week, just put your presentation on your desktop. And then when we're going to go around the room, Carlene's going to say, okay, press this. And voila, your desktop appears with your presentation. Okay. So just get it on your computer. That's all you need, and we'll take it from there. Is that helpful, Namir?
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. All right. Namir, I think you're on your, I think I'm seeing you're on your iPhone.
Yeah.
Do you need us to show the presentation for you?
If you could, and that would work.
Okay. Because I'm just thinking that if he's on his phone, he's not near his computer. Is
So,
that fair?
so can we put, Marion, you know the answer to this one. Can he post it in the homework and then we pull it up from there, or do we have a? Okay.
Yes. Yes. Namir, would that be better for you? Because I know you're not near your computer. And if I remember correctly, each week that would be difficult. Is that correct?
Yeah, sometimes. If you can just go slide it doesn't matter either or.
When Namir presents, we'll bring it up for him, or I'll put it on my desktop and then he can just say
Okay.
next, and then I'll
Okay.
flip your slides forward. Okay.
So
Yeah.
Namir, if you could do that before 5:30 so that Marion could prep for it, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Cool.
Okay.
All right. Excellent. I got you covered, my friend.
All right. So anyhow, with that, are there any other questions?
Quick question.
Carly?
In week 6, it says reply to the discussion and reply to your colleagues like another week out. Is that a typo? Like it's saying reply to the discussion by the 11th and reply to your colleagues by the 14th.
Oh, you know what? It is because
Okay.
we originally put this together thinking that we'd have Thanksgiving week off. So we built all of this before we found out that we didn't get a break.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure.
So, thank you for asking. Yes, definitely. So post it as always, because when we're done on the 8th, the class is done.
And we'll change those dates. Oh, good call out, Carly.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Awesome. Any other questions? Again, if you need us, our email and our phone numbers are there. We'll happily help any way we can. And if not, we want to thank you so much for your time. And I can't believe we're going to be over with next week.
I know. Crazy, isn't it?
All right. So awesome. Have fun. Have a good week. And we will see you on the 8th.
Thanks.
All right, my
Bye.
friends.
Have a good night.
Well, see ya.
Bye.
I just have one question.
Sure.
For the assignments for last week, I actually, I guess, overlooked that there was assignments due. I had did it the week before thinking that Thanksgiving week there wasn't any assignment, but I still have an opportunity to complete those assignments.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, I'll get that done. And then second question, for the capstone, like the last slide, that is going to be the lessons we learn each week.
Yep.
Like we have to do a slide on each of the lessons we've learned with the content, but like we'll just be discussing it verbally.
Well, you're
The
going to be
presentation, right?
right. You're going to be taking first impressions, and whatever that one nugget that you got out of first impressions would be on slide 1. Whatever nugget you got out of the dining, etiquette would be on the next slide. So just go back to the PowerPoints that we've given you or the workbook and say, all right, what do I like? What did I remember that I'm going to use? And that's what you would put in the slides.
Okay. All right, great.
Good question,
right.
though. All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, PJ.
All right.
Bye-bye.